All signs are pointing to Malaysians voting for a new government this year rather than in 2023 when the current parliament ends its term. It will be the first election since 2018 when Malaysians voted for a change of government for the first time in history, overturning the Barisan Nasional coalition which had been in power for more than 60 years. Since then, the country has lurched from one political crisis to another, featuring a series of infighting, horse trading and even switching of parties between politicians. And observers are expecting more of this in the months to come. Joining us from Kuala Lumpur is our Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teoh. Shannon, how are the parties getting ready for the 15th general election, or otherwise known as GE15? And is Barisan Nasional poised to make a comeback?
It looks really good for Barisan Nasional now, doesn't it? And that's why you're seeing UMNO leaders, specifically those who are aligned with President Zahid Hamidi, aligned with the ex-Prime Minister Najib Razak, pushing for elections to happen as early as possible so they can capitalize on the momentum that they have. We've seen that they've won the last two state elections in Johor and Melaka by more than a two-thirds majority. So they believe that things are looking up for the UMNO-led Barisan Nasional. But if you dive down into the math, you actually find that what BN actually won was 40% of the vote. And in most of the contests, it was split either three ways or more than that. And now the parties who are not Barisan Nasional, I mean Perikatan Nasional and Pakatan Harapan, there is a thinking that if they had joined up together, well, then they have about 60% of the vote, and then they would win most of the contests instead. So what the other parties are trying to do now is try to find a way to work together that is still acceptable to their grassroots support, still acceptable to their voters. Now, I say this because ideologically speaking, there is quite a fair gap. You have, for example, in Pakatan Harapan, a secularist party, the Democratic Action Party, and you have in Perikatan Nasional, the Islamist party, PAS, right? And they have very different viewpoints about how to run the country. There are also personality clashes. We have Tan Sri Muhyiddin, the former Prime Minister, who leads Perikatan Nasional, and Anwar Ibrahim, who leads Pakatan Harapan, and they have clashed before over who should have succeeded Mahathir Mohamad as Prime Minister in 2020. So we have all these separate personality issues as well, aside from the ideological issues. So the parties are basically, they understand what the math is on the ground, right? They understand that. But how do you sell the narrative to your voters and to your support base? That's going to be the important watch point in the next coming months.
Shannon, officially the next general election must be held by September 2023, that is next year. But all signs are pointing to an election this year. Tell us why.
Well, as we mentioned before, there's a segment in UMNO that believes that we should have it as soon as possible. We have the momentum with us. We don't want the other parties to re-strategize, to find a way to beat us. They are in disarray. They don't know what to do. We've been winning landslide victories, so they want to push forward and have the election as soon as possible. However, this doesn't suit the existing Prime Minister, Ismail Sabri Yaakob. Now, he's an UMNO Vice President, and he wants to stay in power, obviously. But what the President of UMNO wants is that they want to have an election as soon as possible. They believe they can dominate Malaysian politics again the way they have before 2018 when they lost the last general election. And so he wants to have an election as soon as possible. So now we're looking at a timeline between August, September, October, around there, after a confidence and supply agreement with the opposition expires. Now, that's crucial because under that CSA, the confidence and supply agreement, Parliament is not supposed to be dissolved before July 31st. Right? It can only be dissolved after that. And part of this agreement is to ensure that it was a way to ensure that there was political stability, enough stability so that we can have, we can pass the budget, we can agree on major legislative issues. Now, that's it, right? So one half of UMNO wants it to happen by the third quarter of this year, before the end of the year. But the Prime Minister appears to want it to extend a bit longer. He wants a longer runway to prepare himself, to burnish his image, to show that he is a good Prime Minister and that the people and his own party should return him as Prime Minister after the next election. we understand that he's basically looking at a window after Chinese New Year next year. That means February onwards, right? And that brings us pretty much to the last 6 months of the existing term for Parliament. So once we go into 2023, then it's any time now, right? So what we are looking at, what observers, what reporters are looking at is either it happens in that August to October kind of window. If not, then it's going to be next year, because by the time you reach October or November, it's time to present another budget, right, for 2023. And most governments will feel that being able to present a new budget is a way to sell your promises to voters and to entice them to support you for the next term.
Shannon, thank you for your perspectives. Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teoh. For more on what to expect if Malaysia goes to the polls this year, you'll find our coverage online at str.sg/Asia. Our team in Malaysia, led by Shannon, has been looking at how the different parties are stacking up.